How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck and other gaming handhelds. In today's video, I've got three awesome topics to cover. The first one is that the Steam Controller 2 is real, but there's a lot of caveats with it. Second, we're going to talk about how controllers are absolutely taking over PC. And third, Valve has finally released the new clip recording feature to Steam, and it's even better than I thought it was going to be. So let's start out with this Steam controller that was just announced. When I saw the picture of it, I was immediately like stoked. I saw it on my friend Fan the Deck's Twitter, and then I clicked on the website. I saw it was only Japanese, and for right now, this controller is only confirmed to come out in Japan, but doing a price conversion, it's going to be $60. This one's made by Hori, but as far as Steam controllers go, it's exactly what I've been asking for. It looks like a typical gamepad when you first look at it, but instead of having a PS button or an Xbox button like most controllers that people use on PC have, it has a full-on Steam logo button right in the middle. It also has start and select, the quick access menu button. It even looks like it has some extra buttons that you'll be able to map through Steam input. It has the face buttons you would expect, two joysticks, and of course a D-pad. They're not doing touch pads like they did with the first Steam controller because this isn't a full-on official Steam controller. It's just a Hori pad that's branded to work with Steam. Now, the coolest thing about this controller is, except for the touch pads, it looks like it's just trying to convert over everything from the Steam Deck, so you still retain the four back buttons, which is great. You also get gyro support, which is going to be awesome for playing shooters on your PC or your Steam Deck. It retains the capacitive joysticks from the Steam Deck, which is awesome because losing that feature would really suck. What that is if you're using gyro in a game like Doom Eternal, basically the gyro won't turn on unless you have your thumbs on the thumbsticks. So you can kind of reorient the Steam Deck, then put your thumbs on the thumbsticks when you want to access the camera, and theoretically the orientation will stay correct. It supports Bluetooth, of course, and it charges over USB-C. The one thing that sucks after translating the website is that it looks like this thing is going to have its own third-party app for assigning buttons, but it also says in the new update on Steam's blog that we're going to talk about in the next story that they've worked with Hori to make sure this thing has full functionality with Steam input. So effectively, this is a Steam controller. I know some people are going to be bummed that they got rid of the whole touchpad interface of the original Steam controller, and while that was cool in very specific games, it never really worked right. And I know they improved the touchpads for the Steam Deck from the original Steam controller, and then they improved them again for the Steam Deck OLED. But I gotta be honest, the only thing I really use the touchpad for these days in pretty much any game is scrolling web browsers when I'm installing stuff in desktop mode. Because if you didn't know, this is a quick Steam Deck tip. The touchpad does not work up and down when you're scrolling, it's radial. So if you scroll your finger in a circular motion, you can scroll up and down web pages and documents and everything like that a lot easier and faster than you would if you move your thumb up and down. There you go, your free Steam Deck tip. But there you go, your free Steam Deck tip of the day. But beyond losing the touchpads, I think this thing looks awesome. It is, again, bringing over every feature of the Steam Deck that I really love. And I feel like on PC, there's just been a lack of a dedicated controller. Again, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but you know, the default that people use basically on PC is either an Xbox Series controller or you use a DualSense wired to the PC, which is what I do. I use my DualSense Edge wired to my PC, and you know, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes it registers as a DualSense and everything works great in games like God of War or Ghost of Tsushima. Sometimes I have to use Steam input and register it as like a DualSense or a 360 controller to really get everything working just right. But that's my favorite controller that I use, but I don't like having to switch it from my PS5 upstairs to my PS5 down here and then to my PC. It doesn't remember two PS5s, and when you plug it into your PC, it clears out the PS5 that it's connected to. So having a dedicated PC controller just sounds absolutely phenomenal, and I'm shocked it took this long. I'm really curious why it's only been confirmed for Japan. I would guess that the two options are A, it is going to come out here at a later date, but they only have so many made and they want to test it out in Japan, see if people adopt it first and then release it worldwide. And I'm pretty sure when Hori releases controllers, they always release them in Japan first, and there's a little bit of a lag before their stuff gets released worldwide. But also, there have been a lot of references to a Steam controller with touchpads in game updates that Valve does for stuff like CS2 or Team Fortress 2 whenever they get around to that, or Dota 2. So my other theory is that maybe they are working on a true successor to the Steam controller that looks very similar to this, retains all of the buttons, the gyro, but also potentially includes trackpads, which would be a great option because then when you go to the store and you want to pick up a new controller controller for your PC. You can say, hey, I play a lot of RTS games, I play a lot of older stuff that requires trackpads. You can then buy the Steam controller too, or if and when Hori releases their HoriPad Steam controller here in the United States, you can get one that doesn't have the touchpads taking up real estate on the controller. So regardless, it is just incredibly cool to see a controller with a dedicated Steam button. They're really going full force into making sure that big picture mode is not really a failure like the original big picture mode was. I'll never forget it. I was in college when they announced big picture and I was so excited to run home from class and get it up and running. And while it worked and it was a solid interface and it had that cool keyboard that would split between the joysticks and everything like that, it just never really got the support that was required and it would break all the time. So I used it for about a week and then I moved on. Big picture mode now, I use it all the time on my main PC. And obviously when I'm on the Steam Deck, it's the same interface because big picture mode is just the Steam Deck's interface transitioned over to Steam for PCs, and it's phenomenal. Anything they can do to release accessories or include features, it's awesome with me. And yeah, I'm excited to pick this up. I'm going to try and import one from Japan, but if I can't, I'll just wait until they release it here because I'm pretty sure they are going to release it here. Second on the list, let's talk about how controllers are completely taking over on Steam. So Valve put out a whole blog post that talked about the stats and everything related to controllers. They also talked about some of the improvements they're making specifically with the DualSense Edge, which is awesome. And we'll just get into it right now. So since 2018, the amount of people who play on Steam that use controllers has gone up from 5% to 15%. And obviously, like, having the Steam Deck really improved that because you use a controller all the time when you're on the Steam Deck, unless you have it mounted or docked or with like a kickstand out on the kill switch or something like that, and you're using a keyboard and mouse. I'd hazard a guess that like 99% of people don't do that. So that percentage was definitely helped by the Steam Deck. And that's proven by Valve because they say 10% of all the people using controllers on Steam are using a Steam Deck, which is awesome. 59% of people are using an Xbox controller, which it makes sense, right? Like, they make so many different controllers and so many different colorways. There are tons of special editions. When I don't want to go upstairs and get my DualSense and bring it down here with the 9-foot cable and everything, the controller I always default to is my original Gears 4 Elite controller. I have the red one with like the scratch marks and the blood all over it. That's my favorite controller of all time, so I use that on PC. But shockingly, 26% of the people are using a PlayStation controller, which is crazy considering how much of a hurdle it is to get that thing working with PC. If you use the DualSense over Bluetooth, you don't get to use DualSense features in games like Ghost of Tsushima or God of War, which is annoying. And if you use it over Bluetooth, you sometimes need to use an app like DualSense for Windows or DualShock 4 for Windows to get all of the features to work right. I remember when that came out, I had a DualShock 4 that I got before the PS4 came out. You could use the touchpad as a mouse, and I just thought that was so freaking cool back in the day. But yeah, seeing 26% of people using a DualSense is awesome to me as someone who has a PlayStation channel called PS Ready. Like, I love the DualSense Edge, and even though it's expensive at $200, I think it was worth every penny. But you know, the regular DualSense is no slouch either. So yeah, with all these games like Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok coming soon, Ghost of Tsushima, X, Y, and Z, like every PlayStation game coming to PC, it makes sense that people would want to go out and buy a PlayStation controller to take advantage of the DualSense features in those games. I'm just excited to see that user base creeping up from Valve. The next section of the blog post is them patting themselves on the back about big picture mode. They're like, they completely redesigned the interface to work with controllers. Obviously that was just for the Steam Deck, but it translates super well to regular gaming PCs. They've introduced a new controller configurator, which I use all the time, being able to even search for controller layouts for retro games like Resident Evil 2. You can, once you have it in Steam through EmuDeck's Steam ROM Manager, you can actually search for games that aren't on Steam and find controller layouts, and I find them all the time for Steam Deck. They've added gyro support, which I know first-person shooter people like. Ever since, you know, Splatoon came out on the Wii U and they kind of really revolutionized gyro aiming, I think people have been way more into it, and my friend Rich, again, who I mention in every video lately, he loves using gyro aim, which is cool. And they specifically say they worked with Sony to improve support for PS controllers, including the DualSense Edge, and they can now support future third-party licensed PlayStation gamepads, which I'm gonna have to steal that for PS Ready because that kind of confirmed that we're finally getting third-party PS5 controllers. If you didn't know, there are like none, and when they do come out, they don't have any features like adaptive triggers or haptic feedback. The third-party controller situation on PS5 honestly absolutely blows. And then at the very end of the blog post, they say that the HoriPad will be supported. I really hope that thing does not take too long to come out here. I'm just like super jazzed about the idea of of having a full-on dedicated Steam controller. But in the meantime, it's good to know that people are playing games with controllers. I know PC players love keyboard and mouse, but like with Elden Ring, you shouldn't use a keyboard and mouse. With Sekiro, you shouldn't use a keyboard and mouse. Same thing goes for Ghost of Tsushima. Really, any third-person open-world action-adventure game, you really should be using a controller because those games were all designed with console in mind, like Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima. All of these games were designed to be played with a controller. And while yes, you can use a keyboard and mouse, it's not the greatest experience. And honestly, even with racing games like Forza Horizon 5, I would never use a keyboard and mouse in that because the control would just not be there. So yeah, when I was growing up and my friends had gaming PCs, I would always use a controller. And now, you know, I just feel like there's less people who are going to bully me out there for doing so. But with first-person shooters like Doom Eternal, I'm using a keyboard and mouse. I do not play first-person shooters with a controller. I mean, even on my Steam Deck, I use gyro aiming, but I just don't like first-person shooters on the Steam Deck. I always end up just going back to my PC. Anyway, that brings us to the third news story here, which is that clips have finally released in Steam. You have to get the beta, which is super easy. You just go to settings and opt into the Steam client beta on your PC, and then you'll have this feature, which is like a whole creator suite for making your own game clips. So the 4 sections they've got are record, replay, clip, and share. We're gonna go through them all one by one. So in the record section, you can have background recording set up so your game is always recording, and you can also set storage limits so that will never be exceeded. You'll get a little warning that says, hey, you're reaching your storage limit, but in the background, your game will always be recorded, just like it is on the PS5 or Xbox Series X. And while you're background recording, you can just pull up the menu and go back a little bit and see how you died in something like Elden Ring. It's got that whole quick replay feature where you can go back like 10 or 15 seconds, just like, again, the PS5 and Series X, which, you know, they've had that since the PS4 and Xbox One. So it's nice to see Valve catching up a little bit. And of course, you can also make clips that are easy to save and share. So the cool thing is when your game is recording in the background, it'll automatically leave markers if the developer supports that. So if you're fighting a boss in Elden Ring or something like that, and you're recording for like 3 or 4 hours, it will automatically place a marker if, again, the developer supports that. But they also have a way to read what's happening in the game, and they have a timeline that'll have different icons for different parts of the game. So they have one specifically for being in a menu, being in a lobby, and when you're actually in the game. So if you're someone like me who wants to capture a bunch of B-roll on their Steam Deck or their gaming PC, I can clearly easily see what part is the gameplay and then use their built-in editor to clip out all the stuff that doesn't matter, like menus or lobbies. And then they also give you a lot of options when it comes to saving these clips. You can save them to your computer, you can send them to a phone, you can send them over email, you can generate a link with the QR code if you want to send that to a friend so they can download the clip themselves. And if you want it to not be in the Steam format that has all the clip markers and everything, you can of course export it as an MP4, which sounds like, you know, no-brainer type material, but like, I don't know, I wouldn't put it past any company to overlook something super simple like that, so I'm glad that they specifically pointed out. And finally, at the very end of the post, they say all of this is Steam Deck verified, so if you opt into the Steam client beta on your Steam Deck, which I am going to do after I record this video, you'll have this clip recording feature ready to go. This is what I've been begging for so long on the Steam Deck. So hopefully going forward, you'll see a lot less game trailers and a lot more gameplay because I'm just going to leave background recording on. I have a ton of free storage since I have 2 terabytes in my Steam Deck. This is an awesome feature. I know Valve has had game recording in Steam, but it was never really that good. So I always defaulted either to OBS or NVIDIA Shadowplay, and both of them are decent, but have their own drawbacks. I just want to be able to use Steam as a sort of console interface for my PC, and every feature they add in like Big Picture or something like this, where you can record gameplay on demand or in the background, clip it, share it, do whatever you want with it, that gets me closer to that future I want to have my PC be my main console. And on top of that, now they've got the Hori Pad coming out that's a Steam controller. It's like it's really happening. I feel like the only things we really have to wait for at this point are a full-on Steam machine or, of course, a Steam controller too. But I feel like those are right around the corner. So yeah, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. I hope you've been enjoying the increased output here on this channel. Again, so many people came up to me when I was in LA and everyone recognized me from this channel. And I was like, I'm an idiot. I got to do more videos here. There's no reason why I can't keep up with 2 a week. So hopefully you've been enjoying them. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.